English Learning Podcasts.
Listen, learn, and improve your English effortlessly. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Path of Glory, the podcast where we help you become not just fluent in English, but confident, thoughtful, and respectful in every conversation. I'm Emma.
And I'm Daniel. Today we're exploring a skill that many English learners and even native speakers find challenging: giving and receiving feedback.
That's right. Feedback is something we encounter all the time, at work, in school, and even in our personal relationships. But giving feedback politely and receiving it gracefully requires both language awareness and emotional intelligence.
Exactly. In English-speaking cultures, there's often a balance between honesty and politeness, between being direct and being kind. If you're too direct, you might sound rude. If you're too soft, the message might not be clear.
So, in this episode, we'll show you how to find that perfect balance, how to give constructive feedback, respond positively when someone gives you feedback, and build better communication habits overall.
We'll look at real examples, explain key phrases, and talk about the cultural differences in how feedback is shared in different parts of the world.
And of course, we'll give you practical sentences you can use in your daily life, whether it's in the office, during group projects, or even with friends.
Before we dive into our first dialogue, let's go through some essential vocabulary and expressions you'll hear throughout this episode.
Vocabulary preview. The first phrase is constructive feedback. Constructive feedback means helpful, specific comments aimed at improving something, not criticizing just for the sake of it. For example, my teacher gave me constructive feedback on my essay.
Right. It's feedback that builds up, not tears down. The focus is on solutions and growth.
Next is to take feedback well. If someone says, "She takes feedback well," it means she listens calmly, doesn't get defensive, and tries to learn from it.
Exactly. The opposite would be taking feedback personally, meaning you feel hurt or attacked, instead of seeing it as helpful advice.
Another important term is tone. Tone refers to the emotion or attitude behind your words, how you sound, not just what you say. For example, his words were polite, but his tone sounded impatient.
That's a great one. In feedback, tone is everything. A kind tone can make even difficult feedback easier to hear.
Next, we have to phrase something carefully. This means to choose your words thoughtfully when giving feedback. For instance, you might want to phrase that more carefully when speaking to your manager.
Another useful term is to acknowledge. To acknowledge means to recognize or accept something. For example, I acknowledge your hard work on this project.
Perfect. We also have appreciate. In feedback, appreciate means to express gratitude or recognize effort. For example, I really appreciate how much effort you put into this.
And finally, the phrase, room for improvement. This means there's potential to get better, a polite way to point out what could be improved without sounding negative. For example, your presentation was great, but there's still some room for improvement in timing.
Excellent. Those are the key expressions we'll be using in this episode. Now, let's move to our first real-life conversation, how to give feedback respectfully in a workplace situation. Let's begin with a realistic scene. Imagine you're in a team meeting at work. A colleague has just finished a presentation. You thought it was good overall, but you also noticed a few areas that could be improved. How can you share your thoughts in English without sounding rude or overly critical?
That's a situation many people face, right? The key is to balance honesty with encouragement to make your feedback constructive.
Exactly. Let's act it out. I'll play the role of a manager giving feedback to a team member, and you can play the colleague receiving it.
Perfect. Let's begin.
Hi, Daniel. Great job on your presentation today. I can tell you spent a lot of time preparing. The visuals were clear, and your explanations were very organized.
Thank you, Emma. I'm glad to hear that.
I especially liked how you started with that short story about the client. It really helped grab everyone's attention.
Thanks. I wanted to make it more relatable.
It worked very well. If I could make one small suggestion, though, perhaps next time you could slow down a little during the second half. Some of the key points felt a bit rushed.
Oh, that's good to know. I was worried about running out of time, so I probably spoke too quickly.
Yes, completely understandable. But overall, your message was strong and clear. Just pacing yourself a bit more will make it even better.
Thanks. I appreciate the feedback. I'll keep that in mind for next time.
You're welcome. You're doing great. It's clear you're improving with every presentation. Now, that's a perfect example of giving feedback that is both honest and encouraging. Notice the structure. Praise first, then the suggestion, and finally, more encouragement.
Yes, that's often called the sandwich method. You start with something positive, add your suggestion or criticism in the middle, and end with another positive comment.
Exactly. It's not about hiding criticism. It's about framing it in a way that helps the listener stay open.
And from the listener's side, it's just as important to receive feedback with the right attitude. Instead of becoming defensive, you can respond with phrases like, "Thanks for pointing that out. I'll definitely work on that. I appreciate your honesty."
That's such a good point. A professional, calm response not only shows maturity, but also builds trust between colleagues.
Absolutely. And if you're not sure about the feedback, you can ask clarifying questions politely. For example, "Could you give me an example of what you mean?" Or, "Which part do you think needs the most improvement?"
Beautiful. That shows curiosity and a willingness to learn.
So, in this dialogue, we saw that giving feedback doesn't have to be uncomfortable. When it's done with respect, it becomes an opportunity for growth, not criticism.
Perfectly said. Next, we'll explore language strategies and phrasing, the specific expressions that make your feedback sound professional, polite, and effective in English. So now that we've heard how a professional feedback conversation sounds, let's look at the language behind it. The words you choose, and even the order in which you say them can completely change how your message feels.
Exactly. English speakers often use softening language, small, polite words that make feedback sound thoughtful rather than harsh. Let's explore some examples together. Softening expressions for giving feedback.
Here are some of the most common softening phrases. You might want to consider. One thing you could try is, perhaps you could. It might be helpful if. You may want to think about.
Let's hear how they sound in context. Instead of saying, "You spoke too fast," which sounds direct and critical, you could say, "You might want to slow down a little during your presentation."
Much better. It feels gentle, helpful, and supportive, not judgmental. Or instead of, "Your slides were confusing," you can say, "It might be clearer if you simplified your slides a bit."
Exactly. You're saying the same thing, but the tone is polite and professional.
Now, sometimes you want to emphasize the positive side of feedback first. That's where these expressions come in. I really like the way you... What worked well was... One strong point was...
For example, "I really liked the way you explained the data. It made the report easy to understand."
Right. And then you can gently transition into your suggestion with linking phrases like, "If I could make one small suggestion, the only thing I might change is, one thing that could make it even better is..."
Let's demonstrate that in a short example. "I thought your report was really detailed and well organized. If I could make one small suggestion, Maybe you could shorten the introduction a little just to keep the reader's attention.
Perfect. It's polite, constructive, and sounds like genuine teamwork, not criticism.
Conversation. Language for receiving feedback.
Now, let's switch sides. How do you receive feedback gracefully?
Yes, because even if someone gives you excellent feedback, it won't help unless you respond well. Let's go over some natural ways to react politely.
When you agree with the feedback, you can say, "That's a good point, thank you. I appreciate you noticing that. You're right, I'll definitely work on that."
And if you're not sure you understand, you can ask for clarification politely. Could you give me an example of what you mean? Do you think I should focus more on content or structure?
Excellent examples. And if you disagree, which can happen, you can still respond respectfully. "I understand your perspective. From my side, I was aiming for... That's interesting feedback. Let me think about how to apply it."
Notice that you don't argue or reject the feedback. You simply acknowledge it and keep the tone professional.
Body language and tone. Tone of voice and body language also play a role in communication. When you're giving feedback, keep your tone calm, kind, and steady. Avoid sounding sarcastic or impatient.
And when receiving feedback, maintain eye contact and open posture. It shows that you're listening and taking the conversation seriously.
Smiling occasionally or nodding slightly helps create a friendly, respectful atmosphere.
Exactly. And remember, in English-speaking workplaces, confidence is often shown through composure, staying relaxed and positive, even in uncomfortable moments.
That's a wonderful point. Now that we've seen how to choose the right phrases and tone, let's explore how feedback is understood differently across cultures and how to adapt your communication style when working internationally. Now that we've explored polite language and communication strategies, let's go one step deeper. Giving and receiving feedback isn't just about words. It's about culture and emotional intelligence.
That's right. The way people handle feedback varies widely across countries and cultures. What sounds polite in one place might seem too direct or even unclear in another.
For example, in many Western cultures, like the United States, Canada, or parts of Europe, people tend to value directness. They often say exactly what they think, but they soften it with friendly tone or polite words.
Yes, and in those cultures, feedback is often seen as a form of support, not criticism. If your boss gives you feedback, it means they care about your progress.
That's a great point. But in many Asian cultures, such as Japan, Korea, or Indonesia, people may prefer a more indirect approach. They might say something like, "There's a small area we could look at again," rather than, "This part is wrong."
Exactly. The goal there is to preserve harmony and respect. It's less about efficiency and more about maintaining positive relationships.
So if you're working in an international team, it's important to be aware of these cultural styles. For example, when giving feedback to someone from a more indirect culture, you might choose gentler language.
Yes, something like, "I really like what you've done here. One small thing we might explore further is..." It's clear, but still respectful.
On the other hand, when you're working with people from cultures that value direct communication, you can be a little more straightforward, as long as your tone stays kind.
That's the key balance. Clarity with kindness.
Now, let's connect this idea to something even more personal: emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence, or EQ, is your ability to recognize, understand, and manage your emotions and those of others. When giving feedback, emotional intelligence helps you choose the right moment, tone, and words.
Exactly. For example, imagine your coworker just received some bad news. That might not be the best time to offer detailed feedback. An emotionally intelligent person would wait until the person is calm and receptive.
Yes, timing is everything. Feedback is most effective when the listener is ready to hear it.
And the same applies when receiving feedback. If someone gives you advice and you feel upset or defensive, take a breath. Remind yourself that feedback is not a personal attack. It's an opportunity to grow.
That's such a powerful mindset shift. Instead of thinking, they're criticizing me, you can think, they're helping me improve.
Exactly. That's emotional maturity. Being able to stay open even when the feedback feels uncomfortable.
Let's give a short example to show emotional intelligence in action. Mini dialogue. Feedback with empathy.
Hey, Daniel, I wanted to talk about your report from yesterday. First, I really appreciate how detailed it was. It's clear you put a lot of effort into it.
Thanks, Emma. I tried to cover everything thoroughly.
You did. The only thing I noticed is that it might be a little long for the meeting. Maybe we can shorten it just a bit for clarity? What do you think?
That makes sense. I think I can summarize a few parts. Thanks for pointing that out.
Perfect. I really value your attention to detail. It makes our project stronger. That's how emotional intelligence transforms a simple exchange into a positive moment. I didn't just give feedback, I invited a dialogue. I asked, "What do you think?" That shows respect for Daniel's perspective.
Yes, and notice how both sides remained calm and appreciative. The focus was on collaboration, not correction.
That's what makes feedback effective, when both people feel safe to speak honestly and respectfully.
Exactly. Whether you're a manager, a student, or a team member, the goal isn't to be perfect, it's to keep learning from each other.
Beautifully said. Now, let's wrap up this episode by reviewing everything we've learned, the key vocabulary, expressions, and emotional strategies for giving and receiving feedback like a professional communicator. We've covered so much in this episode, from giving thoughtful feedback to receiving it with grace and emotional intelligence. Now, let's take a moment to review the key ideas and phrases that will help you communicate respectfully and confidently in English.
That's right. Let's begin with some of the most important expressions you can use when giving feedback. Repeat them in your mind or out loud as we go through them.
I really liked the way One strong point was, it might be helpful if, you might want to consider, if I could make one small suggestion.
And when you receive feedback, try these polite and confident responses. Thanks for letting me know. That's a good point. I'll work on that. I appreciate your honesty. Could you give me an example? I understand your perspective. Thank you.
Beautiful. These phrases help you stay professional, kind, and open-minded. 3 things that make every interaction more successful.
Now, let's review the key vocabulary from this episode. Constructive feedback. Helpful advice designed to improve something. Tone. The emotion or attitude behind your words. To phrase carefully. To choose your words thoughtfully. Acknowledge. To recognize or show appreciation. Appreciate. To express gratitude. Room for improvement. A polite way to say something can be made better.
Perfect review. But remember, the goal isn't just to memorize phrases, it's to understand the mindset behind them.
Exactly. The mindset of good communication is respect, clarity, and empathy. When you give feedback, think, how can my words help this person grow? When you receive feedback, think, what can I learn from this?
That's such a healthy way to think about it. And if you ever feel nervous about feedback, remind yourself, it's not a test. It's a conversation.
Yes, the best communicators are not the ones who always agree. They're the ones who can disagree gracefully and still move forward with respect.
So your Path of Glory challenge for this week is simple. The next time someone gives you feedback, at school, at work, or even at home, take a deep breath, Listen carefully and respond calmly. And if you have to give feedback, try using one of today's polite expressions.
Every time you do that, you're not just practicing English, you're developing leadership, empathy, and global communication skills.
Exactly. Fluency isn't just about grammar, it's about connection. The way you speak can build bridges or walls. Choose kindness, choose respect, and your English will shine naturally.
Beautifully said, Emma.
Thank you, Daniel. And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us on Path of Glory.
In our next episode, we'll explore confidence in English, how to overcome fear and speak naturally. It's going to be a practical and motivating one, full of real-life tips to help you speak with courage and flow.
That sounds perfect for anyone who wants to take their English and their mindset to the next level.
So, keep practicing, keep learning, and keep growing. Every conversation is a new chance to shine.
This is Emma.
And I'm Daniel.
Thanks for listening to Path of Glory, your journey to confident, fluent English.